Let's talk a little Ohio State recruiting today. You know, the Buckeyes are coming off that national championship. The confetti is still falling, but the coaches are already out on the road recruiting. I bet it's great walking into schools right after you won the national championship, and that's what we're going to break down today. We got Alex Gleitman from Letterman Row. He's going to take us behind the scenes of what's going on in Ohio State recruiting. But before we get into it, guys, do me a favor right now. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruit channel. We're trying to get this thing to 100K. I think Ohio State fans can help. Hit that subscribe button. All right, let's bring in Alex Gleitman, Letterman Row. Alex, covering recruiting must be fun right now. What's been the recruit reaction after the national championship win? Is it really resonating with recruits?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's tons of good things to talk about. What Ohio State just did. I mean, and it's weird because it's the first year of the 12-team playoff. I think every year after this, a team is going to do something similar. But going through, especially after what happened on November 30th against Michigan, going through Tennessee, Oregon in kind of blowout fashion, beating Texas in Dallas, and then the exclamation point against Notre Dame is obviously giving Ohio State a ton of momentum on the recruiting trail. I really almost have sympathy for the coaches in the sense that with the new calendar, they really had no time off to enjoy it, sit back, relax, really take it all in. As you said, they're right back on the road. And they actually had some recruits on campus this week, I should say, at the celebration on Sunday. And now they're out on the road at different schools. They started with Ohio, really focusing on some of their commits for the next class, as well as some of their bigger targets. And then, they're going to branch out nationwide throughout the rest of the week. But yeah, as you said, Josh, it's just really resonating. A lot of excitement around the program right now. They showed that they can reach the pinnacle of the sport with Ryan Day as the head coach, which was a question just 2 months ago. And they also, with what they're going to put in the NFL draft in a couple of months here, could be up to like 15 guys drafted. So you have the development, check the box to get you to the NFL. You now could check the box that Ryan Day could win a national championship and hopefully many more in Columbus at Ohio State.
Yeah, and so as Ohio State fans kind of shake off this championship hangover that they're coming out of, it's time to focus on 2026. And don't worry, because Brian Hartline, he's already got his guy. That's Chris Henry Jr., the number one wide receiver in America. He's been locked in for nearly a year already. And, he says all the right things, but he is taking visits to other schools. So as we start the 2026 cycle, how should Ohio State fans kind of take these visits? What does it mean?
Yeah, I mean, look, you prefer if you're the guy who's arguably the number one recruit in the class wasn't going to visit Oregon or USC or other schools. I think Chris Henry Jr., though, with Pac-Man Jones as his guardian, his mentor, is very level-headed about this. I don't think he's someone who's going to make any irrational decisions. Like, everything's going to be calculated and methodical in this process. And I think this is just the new college football. Not that this is really allowed within the rules right now, but there's a lot of programs paying kids to come visit schools. There's a lot of just different things going on with NIL opportunities and things like that. I think where Chris Henry Jr. is, though, is as long as Ryan Day and Brian Hartline are at Ohio State, I feel really good about Chris Henry Jr. signing with Ohio State. I think he obviously has to be prepared if one or both of those things isn't the case by the time he signs in little less than a year, I guess, at this point. If that's not the case, he needs a backup plan, right? And I think right now Oregon probably looks like the top choice to be that backup plan, but I don't really see the Ducks being able to flip, or anyone else really being able to flip Chris Henry Jr. unless both of Ryan Day and Brian Hartline are on Ohio State. At least one of them would have to leave the program for it to even be a possibility, in my opinion. So I wouldn't panic right now, Ohio State fans, but it's obviously something to watch over the next year.
And to me, maybe Ohio State fans can take solace in this, but maybe this plays out exactly how Jeremiah Smith's recruitment played out. I mean, he said at every turn that he was solid, but I'm going to still check out these other schools. And in the end, he was all Ohio State. So maybe, do you get the same kind of feel from this Chris Henry recruitment?
Like, yes and no, as far as, the visits that are going to happen and the storylines that are going to come out. I actually do think, while I do believe Jeremiah that he was pretty solid with Ohio State, with Hartline and Day there, I do think there was probably more of a chance that a Miami or Florida State last minute could have swooped in and got him. I mean, supposedly Miami almost did that.
Yeah.
But I think Chris Henry's like a little bit more solid than maybe Jeremiah was at the
Okay.
time. But I do think there's a lot of similarities between the two. Obviously, it'll be really interesting. Ohio State thinks he can make a Jeremiah Smith like impact, although it'll be really interesting because Jeremiah Smith's only 2 years older than him. So they'll be there at the same time, which could be a great opportunity for Chris and a selling point. Ohio
Mm-hmm.
State, hey, you play with him for a year, you learn the ropes from one of the greatest to ever do it at the college level, and then you kind of take over that role for the next 2 years before you're a top NFL draft pick too.
Okay. I like that. Let's move on to arguably the most important position. And I say that because Ohio State fans are always in the comment sections of any Ohio State video I do saying, well, what about offensive line? Or, well, if we can't recruit the offensive line, what does it matter? So let's talk about the number one overall offensive tackle, Jackson Cantwell. Now, we know what happened with Jordan Seaton. We know what happened with David Sanders Jr., but this year, the focus is on number one offensive tackle, Jackson Cantwell, and he's been to Ohio State. He's a major target. So as the 2026 cycle begins, where do you think the Buckeyes stand with Cantwell?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been someone from the jump that doesn't feel that Ohio State is like, I would take the field, no doubt, over Ohio State as of today. I think that they've made progress. They had a strong visit, whatever it was, about a month ago. I think that was a really positive visit. And you asked me before the impact of the national championship on the recruiting trail. I would say no position more than offensive line is positively impacted by Ohio State's run to a national title just because of what they were able to do, what Justin Fry showed from a development standpoint and a coaching standpoint. Losing Josh Simmons in October, projected first-round pick, losing the Remington Trophy award winner Seth McLaughlin right before the Indiana game in late November, and being able to move Donovan Jackson from guard to tackle, moving Carson Hinsman, who came in at guard, moving him to center, putting in Luke Montgomery in the college football playoff to start for the first time at left guard while rotating Tegra Tshabola and Austin Sareveld as well at guard, and winning a national championship in quite honestly dominant fashion over that 4-game stretch doing so. I mean, that there may not be a more impressive coaching accomplishment than what Justin Fry did this past year when you look at the landscape of college football. And I know that is resonating with offensive linemen, including Jackson Cantwell. So I do think Ohio State maybe has his eye here. I think that they need to seize that opportunity, get him back on campus this spring, lock down an official visit this summer, and they'll be in the mix to have a shot. But I'm still taking the field over Ohio State for Jackson Cantwell.
All right. Well, we will follow that storyline as this recruitment goes on. Last question. We'll wrap it up with this. When can Ohio State fans expect the next big visit weekend in Columbus?
Yeah, they had a nice little group, including many offensive linemen for the celebration, national championship celebration in Ohio Stadium. There's about 45,000 fans there. And that was a good opportunity to get some of their big fish, especially there's 3-4 big guys on the offensive line in state that were able to make it. I've been told that they're not going to be doing a traditional junior day over the next few weeks throughout the month of February. It seems like they're really going to focus on hosting most of their bigger targets during spring ball, March, April. We're still waiting for the schedule on that. Obviously, their season ended a lot later than it normally does. So trying to figure out that schedule, but I wouldn't expect a big visit weekend until spring football starts for Ohio State.
All right. Ohio State fans, how we feeling coming off this national championship? And when you talk about recruiting, who are your most important targets for the 2026 cycle? Let us know. Comment section below.